Now that you're familiar with the basic zones on the mode dial, let's take a look at the creative shooting modes. The first mode is called the programmed AE mode and is represented with a P on the mode dial. The P stands for program and the AE for auto exposure. In this mode, the camera automatically adjusts shutter speed and the aperture for optimal exposure. Use this mode when you want to leave the camera in charge of the shutter speed and aperture. To operate in this mode, turn the mode dial to P, press the shutter button halfway down to activate the viewfinder. To monitor the aperture and exposure settings, look through the viewfinder. Hold the shutter halfway down to focus, then press the shutter all the way to take the picture. You can manipulate aperture and shutter speed settings with the quick control dial. Before we discuss the creative shooting modes further, it's important to understand a little more about shutter speeds and ISO settings. In the creative shooting modes, access is gained to ISO settings, aperture, and shutter speed settings. The shutter speed on your camera ranges from 30 to 1/4000th, meaning the shutter opens from 30 seconds to 1/4000th of a second. Choosing a correct shutter speed for the appropriate situation can help you add depth and creativity to your pictures. Shutter speeds have a range of very fast to very slow. Let's talk about these speeds in depth for a moment. The most frequently used shutter speeds lie within the range of 1/500th to 1/60th of a second. This is a typical range used for everyday picture taking. Camera speeds slower than 1/60th will normally require a tripod to avoid blurring the entire picture. Faster shutter speeds are found in the range of 1/500th to 1/4000th. When the camera displays shutter speed with a second marker, this tells the user that this is a measure of seconds. When no second marker is displayed, this is considered a measure of fractions of a second. For example, 8 with a seconds marker is 8 seconds. The number 8 without a seconds marker is an eighth of a second. You can view this information on the LCD panel and through the camera's viewfinder. A fast shutter speed of 1/2000th to 1/4000th could be used to freeze the wings of a bee in flight or the blades of a helicopter. A shutter speed of 1/500th to 1/1000th could be good for freezing action at a sporting event. A moderate shutter speed of 1/125th to 1/500th could be used for taking portraits of friends or family. If you'd like to slow things down and capture the effect of motion or blur the movement of a waterfall, select a slow shutter speed in the range of about 8 to 60. The slowest shutter speeds fall in the realm of 8 to 30 seconds. These shutter speeds will typically be used for shooting subjects at night. The ISO setting affects the imaging sensor's sensitivity to light. The higher the number, the less light that is required to properly expose the image sensor. You can either have the camera automatically choose the sensitivity or you can set it manually. It's a good idea to set the ISO speed to suit the ambient light setting that you're shooting in. When you increase the ISO speed, a higher number, for low light, a faster shutter speed can be used to avoid camera shake. Set the ISO speed by pressing the ISO button and while looking at the LCD panel, turn the main dial to set the desired ISO speed. Keep in mind that a higher ISO setting may introduce noise or grain into your images. An ISO setting that is too high for the shooting conditions will make the image lose quality and you might even start to see particles in your picture. Experiment with ISO settings to become more familiar with their range and control. The image sensor on your camera is very powerful. It gives you the flexibility to shoot in low light conditions and still get amazing pictures. The next setting on the mode dial is the TV or shutter priority mode. The TV stands for time value. Use this mode when you want to set the shutter speed and have the camera automatically select the correct aperture value. Set the mode dial to TV, hold the shutter button halfway down, and use the main dial to set the shutter speed. You can view the shutter speed and aperture values through the camera's viewfinder or on the back LCD panel. The next setting on the mode dial is AV or aperture value mode. When shooting in this mode, you'll set the aperture value and then the camera will calculate the shutter speed necessary for a proper exposure. Select this mode when you want to create a long or short depth of field. To use this mode, set the mode dial to AV and press the shutter button halfway down. Turn the main dial to select an aperture value as you watch the display through the viewfinder. Once you've made your selection, press the shutter button to take the picture. When the f-stop is a small number, the aperture has a large opening, letting in more light, creating a short depth of field. This blurs the background and the foreground. When the f-stop is a large number, the aperture has a small opening, letting in a small amount of light, creating a long depth of field. This keeps the background and foreground in sharp focus. Remember, you can change the ISO setting to make your image more or less sensitive to light to match the ambient light you're shooting in. The next advanced shooting mode is manual or M mode. This mode gives you complete control of the camera. In manual mode, you will set the shutter speed, aperture, and ISO to create the exposure. To operate the camera in manual mode, rotate the mode dial to M. To set the shutter speed, turn the main dial. To set the aperture, press the AV button while turning the main dial. Press the shutter halfway. The exposure setting will be displayed in the viewfinder and on the LCD panel. The exposure level mark lets you see how far you are from the standard exposure level. Check the exposure level and set the desired shutter speed and aperture. The A-depth setting is short for Automatic Depth of Field Auto Exposure. In this setting, the objects in the foreground and background will be in focus automatically. All the AF points will function to detect the subject, and the aperture required to attain the necessary depth of field will be set automatically. When shooting in A-depth mode, all of the subjects covered by the AF points flashing in red will be in focus. When shooting in the advanced modes, your camera has a unique function called live view shooting. You can shoot while viewing a real-time image on the camera's LCD monitor or on a personal computer screen. To shoot in live mode, set the shooting mode dial to a creative zone mode. In the settings menu, select the second setting tab. Scroll down to live view settings, then press the set button. Select enable, then press set again. Once the live mode selection has been enabled, press the set button to turn on the live mode option. This process enables live view shooting for your camera. So now with the camera ready to shoot, just press the set button and the live view image will appear on the LCD monitor in real time. Live autofocus mode needs to be turned on in the custom settings section of your menu before autofocus will work in live mode. To turn on live mode autofocus, first select the custom setting option, then press set. Scroll to autofocus drive AF during live mode shooting. Press set, then highlight live mode. Then press set again to activate. Press the shutter halfway down to exit the menu. A white focusing frame will be in the middle of the center section. Use the multi-controller to move the focusing frame. Move the white focus box over the subject you want to be in focus, then press the AE lock button and hold it down until the box turns green, indicating focus has been achieved. Then press the shutter button down to take the picture. If you want to use manual focusing in live view, turn the focus switch on the lens to manual focus. Control the focusing frame by using the multi-controller. Press the magnify button to enlarge the area you want to focus on and manually set the focus using the focusing ring on the lens. Each time you press the magnify button, the display format will change from full view to 5 times magnification to 10 times magnification for fine-tuned focusing. Remember never to point your camera into the sun in live mode. The heat will cause damage. Live view shooting is a powerful feature and gives you improved flexibility and creativity in digital photography.